Hello and welcome to this class on money and banking for class 12 students of economics. In this session, you'll learn about the demand for money, and in the next video, you will try to explain to you about the second part, that is the supply of money. First, what do we mean by demand for money? We'll base our discussion from the book Demand for money tells us what makes people desire a certain amount of money. We all need money. Money is required to conduct transaction. The value of transactions will determine the money people will want to keep. In this topic on demand for money, we are looking at how much do people need to hold money. As we all know, this theory is based on the liquidity preference theory by J.M. Keynes, where according to him, since money is the most liquid, that we need not borrow rather than keep it to spend for day-to-day activities. So we need money to make a transaction. How much transaction we need depends on the money that we have. Larger the quantum of transaction to be made, larger is the quantity of money demanded. If we need to spend more, we need to demand more of money. Larger is the quantity of money demanded. So in order to be able to transact, we need money, but that money for transaction comes from income. So the level of income that we have determines a transaction. A rise in income will lead to a rise in demand for money. More earning, more demand for money to keep in order to be able to transact. Okay, but we also know that from earning, a part of which we transact by spending, consumption, but there is also the need for saving. So when people keep their saving in the form of money rather than put in the bank, because we all know bank gives us interest, how much money people keep also depends on the rate of interest. How much we hold money, how much we save depends on rate of interest. So when the interest go up, it means it gives us more return. People go save in the bank, they get more return. And if we do so, it means less people will hoard money. So when the interest go up, you understand, people don't hold money, people don't demand for money. So the higher the rate of interest, demand for money falls. On the other hand, you understand, when the interest rate goes down, meaning it is not beneficial to save because you don't earn much interest, people would rather keep or hold money. That is, when rate of interest falls, demand for money would go up. Okay, so therefore, at higher interest rate, money demand comes down. The opposite, vice versa, lower interest rate, money demand that goes up. So what we are looking at is, why do we demand money? We demand money to transact, but to transact we need to earn. From earning, we spend, we save. It's not it. But to save depends on the interest. If the interest is high, we save, we demand low, less for money. If the interest low, we don't save, money demand for money will go up. So that is what we are learning at the moment. But according to Keynes, there are also motives to hold money. This is the one that we have explained, but there are also other motives. Demand for money balance is often referred to as liquidity preference. That's what I've been touched before, explained before. People desire to hold money because balance broadly from two motives. Actually, there are three motives, but in your textbook, we'll stick to these two motives. The first one we have just discussed. We hold money, we demand money for transaction motive to meet the daily needs. The principal motive for holding money is to carry out transaction. If you receive your income weekly and pay your bills on the first day of every week, the moment you receive you pay for everything. You need not hold any cash balance throughout the rest of the week because you've been able to cater to all your needs. But that is not the case. No? Our pattern of expenditure do not normally match our receipts. People earn income at discrete point in time and spend it continuously throughout the interval of time. So there is no smooth flow of income, and the outgo is also, it is not continuous. It's not in a sequence. It differs from month to month, week to week. So that's why a transaction motive tends to not to be in uniform. Okay, so because of that, there is a transaction circle that's going on. If we talk about an individual, industry, economy as a whole, it's not it. So the transaction demand for money in the economy, if you take into in general into consideration about the whole sum total of the economy, transaction demand of money is only a fraction of the total volume of transaction economy over a period of time. I just want to touch this part in brief to know about the formula to calculate the demand for money based on the transaction motive. You can state demand for money as MDT as KT. K is a positive fraction, T is the total value of transaction that people are engaged in the economy at a certain period of time. This KT can also be rewritten as, you can simply interchange, you can find the value of T, not it, and this K will become a reciprocal if you shift to the other side. And 1 by K can also be said to be equal to V. By V, we means the velocity of circulation of money, in which explains the amount of hands that this money changes in a certain period of time. Okay, but what we need to concern more at right now is when we know that the demand for money for transaction motive is for day to day, and consider the whole economy, it's only a part of it. We can also relate to the GDP. The GDP is the earning, like the earning of the person as individual, or the earning of the economy as a whole. That earning is what we learned before as GDP, gross domestic product. And if we consider this as an income, and you look at out of this income, how much do we spend on transaction at that particular point of time, there is actually a stable and positive relationship between the value of transaction and the nominal GDP. The GDP, nominal GDP, remember, is at current price, where you multiply the value of output by the price at that particular year. And it is found that when you obtain the nominal GDP, of course, it explains how much the economy is able to produce goods and services at that point of time. But we also understand there is a volume of transaction at that point of time between people. So if we know the GDP of the country, which is the income, and we know out of that people do transact, like we do transact out of income, less of saving, and it's the same case here. We do find that there is a positive relationship. By positive relationship, we understand if there is an increase in nominal GDP, there will be an increase in the total volume of transaction. It means higher the income, higher will be the transaction. And higher the transaction meaning higher demand for money. So demand for money depends on the income. It's not it. So that's why that earlier formula of MDT is equal to KT can be rewritten as MDT is equal to KPY. K is a fraction, a positive fraction. P here is the general price level in the economy, and Y is the GDP. And what do we get from there is that this formula tells us that the transaction demand for money, MDT, is positively related to the real income. That means the more the income, the more the demand for transaction, the more the demand for money, and also positively related to its P, average price. The higher the price, you have to shell out more money from your income, the higher the amount of demand for money. That is the first one. The second one actually is the precautionary motive, which is not here. By precautionary motive, sometimes it means that we sometimes need money for future uncertainties, future urgencies, future accident or medical expense. That is also sometimes we demand money for. But at the moment, let's go to the third one, the speculative demand for money. Okay, an individual may hold her wealth in the form of landed property, bullion, bonds, money, etc. But for all these, will simply we hold assets into a single category called bonds. Suppose we hold money and we hold bonds. Bonds, what are bonds? Bonds are paper bearing the promise of the future stream of monetary returns over a certain period of time. Who issued this bond? From where do you buy these bonds? These bonds, these are papers issued by government or firms for borrowing money from the public, and they are tradable in the market. So when you buy these bonds, it's like you give a loan, you'll get it back when you sell to the issuers, the one that you bought before. So suppose now that you, of course, you demand money for transaction, you demand money for unforeseen contingencies. You also, some people also demand for speculative motive to hold money or to hold bond. Bond are bonds are attractive instruments where you can earn more from the money that you have. So some people they do also want to invest in bond in order to increase the amount of money that they earn. So what do you sense from here is that people demand money for daily needs, for few urgent needs. They also demand money for investment in speculative assets, where by speculative means you do not know whether you'll earn or not, but you take a gamble. It's not it. So bond here, they are related to a price, and that price of the bond is the, we can call also we can also call it as the interest rate. So the price of the bond, we will not go into the detail of this calculation. We'll simply try to learn about the price of bond is inversely related to the market rate of interest. So if the market rate of interest is high, the price of bond is low, inversely related. When the market rate of interest is low, the price of bond is high. So people will have to see about the movement of the market rate of interest. When the interest is high, means it's good to buy bond because it's cheap. When the rate of interest is low, meaning the price of bond is high. High meaning that you're buying at a higher premium. If you expect that price of the bond, the interest rate will go down in the future, then there is a profit. So in that way, you speculate. No one knows for sure what will happen to the market rate of interest or the price of bond in the future, but you speculate. You expect that you buy today at a good price and in the future you'll earn more, but that may not be the case. So different people have different expectations. We expect, we do not know, we speculate. They have different expectations regarding the future movements in the market rate of interest, and of course the price of the bond based on the private information regarding the economy. We do not know, but we speculate. So some people, they would like to buy bond, but they do not know. It's not that they have to look at the price they have to look at the market rate of interest and then find when it is attractive to buy and when it is profitable to sell. So speculations regarding future movements in interest rate and bond prices give rise to speculative demand for money. That's what we are trying to um, concentrate on. It's not it that some people they demand money for speculative activities. They demand money to put in the bond, right, to buy bonds if it is profitable. So when the interest rate is high, remember it's inversely related. When the interest rate is high, everyone expect it to fall in the future. So when the interest is high, the bond price is low, cheap. So when it's high, it's low. They expect that the interest rate will fall. When it falls means the price will be high. So that's why they hold bond, because when it's high now, price is cheap, they buy. When it's cheap, they expect next month maybe or next 3 months, 5 years, depending on that speculative um, views regarding this particular bond, particular market rate of interest. So when they expect that it will fall in the future, meaning they'll buy cheap now and sell in the future. By doing so, they will earn. So they seeing that they convert money into bonds. So when they do so, the speculative demand for money is low. Okay, so the demand for money is low because they demand more of bond. When the interest is high, bond demand is high, demand for money is low. So when the interest rate comes down, more and more people expect it to rise in the future and anticipate capital loss when the interest rate comes down, meaning the price of the bond rises up. So when it comes down further, they will lose. So that's why they sell the bond and convert it into money. When they convert into money, they demand money. So in that case, when they sell bond and because the interest is low, there is a high speculative demand for money. Hence, speculative demand for money is inversely, like I said before, inversely related to the interest rate. Assuming a simple form, for those who want to know, this is the formula: R max minus R by R minus R min. R is the market rate of interest. R max and R min are upper and lower limits of rate of interest. Both are positive. So these are the two motives why people hold money. Some hold for daily needs, some hold for capital gains. Okay, so if you add them together now, total demand for money in an economy is therefore composed of transaction demand and speculative demand. If we leave out the second one, the precautionary, like I've told you before, the former is directly proportional to real GDP and price level. That means transaction demand for money is proportional to real GDP. High real GDP, high transaction. Low real GDP, low transaction. High price, high transaction. Low price, low transaction. Whereas the speculative that we have just learned, the latter is inversely related to market interest, meaning high interest, low price of bond, and low price of bond, meaning high demand for money. On the other hand, the opposite is true when there is a low rate of interest, the price of bond is high. In that case, when there will be a less demand for money. So the aggregate money demand economy, you can add them all together. MD is equal transaction demand for money, MDT, plus speculative demand for money, MDS. Or you can add those formula, you'll attain this formula that we have right here. So this will be the demand for money, not it. And what you can learn from here is you able to distinguish between the speculative demand for money and the transaction demand for money. Next class we'll talk about the supply of money.